Here again, this is Gray, coming at you from between the black and the white. Hey, today on this episode, let's look at education as a system. Now, I wrote a little bit about this in my book, Quality Education. If you want to know more about that, just let me know. I'll be happy to tell you all about it. But for today, let's just think about this one particular topic, and that's education as a system, which for me begins by thinking of education as a process, and in particular, a transformative process. Now, I suppose you could say every process is transformative in that every process takes inputs and transforms them into outputs. The shirt that I'm wearing was made by transforming inputs, the thread, and which made the material and the buttons and the patterns into the output, which is the shirt. And of course, a process can be such that the output of one process becomes the input of another process. And this is the beginning of thinking of the larger system of education when we think about how each process informs the next and becomes the basis for the next. When we think of the progression through school, there's a progression of processes from education in the home to education in elementary school to education in middle school to education in high school and beyond. So all of those things go into thinking of education as a system. But I think systemic thinking actually goes a little bit beyond just lining the processes up like dominoes and knocking down the first one and hoping the rest of them fall. A system is a collection of parts and components that all work together to accomplish some common aim. And I like to use the example of a cell phone as a collection of parts. There's the screen, and there are buttons and electronics, cameras, accelerometers, all kinds of things are inside these. And they all work together for the common aim of being able to, in this case, take pictures and make phone calls and navigate and send messages and all of those kinds of things. Almost makes me pine for the days when a phone had one use, and that was to make phone calls. But I'm an old guy, and sorry about that. At any rate, the idea is that all of those parts have to work together and are optimized to fulfill the overall aim rather than the individual aim that they might have. For instance, if you consider the screen of a cell phone, it's got to be sensitive enough to respond to touch, but it can't be so hyper efficient that it's too sensitive, oversensitive. So when you just hover over something, something happens and now the phone is doing something that you didn't intend for it to do at that time. You would not like your experience of using that phone would not be meeting your needs if it behaved in that way. So the screen cannot be made too efficient. And I like to tell folks that effectiveness is a much more important measure in terms of the overall system than efficiency of the individual parts. Think of a school system and whether it really is acting as a system if there's some particular internal organization, be it transportation or purchasing or janitorial or the cafeteria services, that is working to be so efficient in and of itself that they're messing up things outside. This is where leadership comes in to try to optimize the behavior of the entire system toward accomplishing the overall goals. And that is what I mean when I talk about education as a system. That we need to look at the whole and make sure that all of the parts understand their role in relation to the whole so that the aim of the overall system gets achieved. Well, that's it for Between the Black and the White today. I appreciate you being here with me. My name is Gray Rinehart, and I'd love to hear from you. Get in touch with me on Facebook or on email or on Twitter or however you might be able to. And let me know if you have any questions or if there's anything that I can do for you. Once again, this is Gray Rinehart reminding you that between the black and the white is where you find gray.